Hello, everyone, and welcome to the broadcast. I hope everyone's doing well today. We're going to be continuing our programming today with our game development project. I figured out some stuff right after the stream last time, so we can go over that, and then we will start the process of moving it into our prior object structure and see where that needs to change accordingly. Hello there, King. Oh, welcome. I wouldn't be able to... I definitely don't recognize such a song, no. Sammy is sitting on my lap getting intensive scratches here. We have Sky up in the tree and Mason on the blanket. Ember looking out the window and giving her ear a scratch. And away she goes. Passing through. She passed through the bed, now the play area. She's getting a snack. Let's go with the nice, reliable bed cam here. Okay. So last time we were encountering a problem with our navigation logic. Excuse me. The issue that we were running into once we actually got it fully working. Hey there, Oleg. Welcome. Let's see. Favorite. Ooh, that's tough. That's tough. I mean, the trick is I like particular songs. I think one of the best ones I've heard... Actually, no. I think it's Nobuo Uematsu. I think that's the one that does the Final Fantasy soundtracks, especially the Final Fantasy XIV stuff. There's some real excellent tracks there. Answers is always a stab to the heart. Very good. Congested. Okay, but last time we were setting up the logic for navigating them around. So max speed here, this doesn't need to happen at this spot. I can actually comment this. We had been putting it here and we'd been using a fixed number. You don't want to do that. Instead, instead, when we are setting up the movement, when we're telling the navigation server where we want to move, we also tell it what's the fastest I should move. So I tell it go this way, and then I tell it don't go any faster than this. The reason that I was messing this up is I was passing 3 to begin with as the max speed, but if I tried any faster, it would go wrong. And the reason it was going wrong is if I set the max speed really high, it's going to try to use it. So it was causing them to veer all over the place and like whirl around each other. And we don't want that. But if I set the max speed to the length of the vector that I pass in and say, don't move any faster than I told you to move, that gives them the ability to slow down, but not to speed up. So they're no longer accelerating in order to dodge a collision. The flickering that we saw before was less them teleporting around randomly and more that, if you watch, doing like rapid loops and circles around each other. But this way, I can set them to be very fast, and they will still come in, and now, they vibrate a lot when we do this, but they still swarm in properly. And let's see if we go to our... So we have the blobs moving at 384, which is pretty fast. Hey there, Don. Welcome, welcome. We can set them to 960, which is 10 squares a second. Neom. Now, you can see that we're getting some of that almost orbiting kind of look to it, but that still lets us do that sort of movement. If I recall, the current handling of physics says no. That speed of light is kind of where you cap out. And in fact, most things can't reach it. If we do 96, which would be the normal fastest that we'd want a monster to move. So this is what you'd expect kind of normal creature speed. And again, there are 1,000 blobs active right now. They are all doing avoidance movement. They are all painting to the screen. I do have an area limit set. We still need to work on the spawn point logic, but... Ooh, neat little ripple effect going there. Look at that. Yeah, that's working. Okay, let's do some number tests. 2,000 moving entities doing avoidance logic and moving and animating. Here they come. Now we can see some traffic jam happening where none of them can move. We can actually mitigate that by spacing them out a little more, making it harder for them to get so close that they can't really squeeze around any of the other ones. Okay, that's 2,000. I wonder if we can change this on the fly. We can. 3,000 entities. You've been watching for a bit? Yeah. Let's look at our monitors. Okay, we can hold pretty steady at 60. Yeah, we're sitting at over 3,000 right now. I'm sorry. Yeah, for some reason over 3,000, but... I think I might be spawning too many of them at once is part of the problem. I think it's plus or minus 50, or up to plus 50 that we'll get. The overall technique where was to switch to addressing the servers directly. So instead of using the node and tree structure, we cut all of that out and we just draw to the screen. We just move them around. We just tell them to avoid each other directly instead. It's a lot fiddlier, and the documentation for it is not great or mostly existent. But you can find good stuff out there to kind of suss it out. Mostly. Okay. Give me 4,000. And we can generally hold at 60 when we're not in the editor. Okay, at 4,000, we're starting to get some frame rate hitches when we move around. Some of the objects are being removed and remade pretty regularly if we move. And since we don't need 4,000 things, we can cap it at 3 here. Now we can see spikes down to like 20 or so. We cut it down to 3,000. Let me just run to the side here. There we go. That'll purge a bunch of them. So at about 3,000 things, that lets us sit at 60 frames a second. Pretty solid. Pretty solid. So let's try some other things to see how much stress test we can put on it. Where's our draw function? Draw. Okay, we get the animations. We clear the canvas item. We create the canvas region. And then we position it. So the question is, do I have a place that I can modulate? Little light mask. Ah, here we go. Modulation. Takes the item and a color that we want to use. We're going to do this. I want to see if messing with the texture that we are loading will cause any significant change. Being able to palette swap will be handy. Common things with these games is all of the sprites are not unique. You will get like, oh, this is like this creature but green, you know? No, what we're doing where is an area 2D, and all of the shapes inside of it, the collision zones, are they're circles that represent the creatures. So actually, we have a void. Bullets. Where's my collision? There we go. They will collide with other enemies, which is part of their avoidance logic. They don't really need to collide with other enemies. But here, we're gonna have them look for the player. If they look for the player, they'll pop when they touch the player. $3,000 things colliding with the player at the center. Yep. Oh, yes. We got rid of raycasting because we don't need it at all. All of this movement, how they're not touching each other really, is navigation server. This is a built-in entity in Godot. Okay. Well, welcome, Moon. Welcome. So I can, like, run through them and it will clear them. Very gauntlet, you know? Okay, so if we say canvas item modulate, I want to... This might be a bit eye-wrecking when I do it, but... comma. It's kind of inconvenient that it does it that way, but there we go. We can do RBG. Okay. Yep. Okay, Moon. The thing that clinched it there, where was that we are able to do, we're able to do the flocking like movement without it. You can do that with a collision circle. The ray is much more for directional flight, you know, or, you know, flocking of fish, that kind of thing. But removing all of the rays removed two things: is its extra collisions, as well as it was extra objects. So we had four, I'm sorry, 5 to 6, or no, generally about 6 tree-based collision entities and associated events in the prior model, and we don't need those. We don't need those at all anymore, because we have the baked-in system to cover it for us. We're using the event of the area 2D. I think we could use... We could manually write that. In the same way, we should be able to manually create the area, but I don't know that we need to jump through that hoop yet. No, we're not doing manual collision detection at this point. We're relying on the physics server to tell us that there was a collision. It saves us setting up our own, like, quad tree and similar. Yep. There are 2 area 2Ds right now. Technically there's 3. There's the player too. And I'm just setting their collisions inside of it, such that it reports the collision back. All right, this is going to look really weird, but we're just going to kind of brute force it. Zero to 255. B. Interesting. Why are we always getting intense violet? Because we're doing a rand F range on the color. From color. Oh, 0 to 1. Yeah, that'd do it. There. I mean, this looks horrifying, but I mean, it's showing that it's not really costing us anything else to do this. Except our retinas, I guess. Yeah, I think, yeah, raw collision detection, like doing the math to say, where is this? You know, like, should these 2 objects bump? That really seems like external library territory, you know? Anywhere where we're actually doing... Like, if we were to manually do things like spatial math, I'd want to do it outside of GD script, since... like I've said before, GD script is supposed to be not as good at that unless you jump through a whole lot of extra hoops. as opposed to just use the external language, you know? But look at him go. Look at him go. No, every one of these guys is a shape. Well, I'm sorry. There is an object, but it's not like a node. It's just a raw object. The slimmest of entities for GDScript. So they don't even have the node parent. I keep track of them myself, and each of them will have a shape. They will have a canvas item. They will have a agent. There was something else that they had too. Canvas item. That they have a canvas item, a shape, and an agent. So the image, like how to render an image, how to handle collision detection, or the thing that handles collision detection from them, and then the thing that handles avoidance movement. And we do canvas item clear just so it ensures that the image goes away if I remove them. But this is one of the reasons that doing things directly with the servers is trickier, because I'm dealing directly with the things that do the drawing and the physics. So the default kind of garbage collection that the tree structure does for you isn't going to happen here. So any sort of resource identifier we create, we have to manually get rid of it. Okay. But we have made great progress in performance territory, so we can start looping back around into things like movement. Sure. At the moment, that's it. Whereas the player one is using the old model. So the player one still has these sitting around. They're all inactive, but they're there. The blob in the mouse spawner, as far as the tree is concerned, there's nothing else in them. Looking at these guys, I kind of feel like I need to have like the Mario Brothers star tone going. But yeah, anything that we do through the servers directly doesn't appear in the tree at all anymore. And supposedly, or at least demonstrably as well, that is the big savings. Well, thank you. We have come a long ways. I don't know if you were here for the Sunday stream. I don't recall seeing you then. But we did a lot of work on this structure on Saturday, and I forgot to commit it to my branch. And then I tried to revert a change that I made at the start of the Sunday stream, and I purged Saturday. So all of this advancement is from the doing it over again stage. We learned a lot from Saturday, and when we remade it, it was better. Okay. So now, I want to start moving this into some of the other structures, because I think our pattern isn't terrible at this point. The things clean them up themselves. clean themselves up here. So they'll get rid of all their corresponding pieces. I think they're going to need different things in their template, so... Ooh. Is that, like... Okay, I'm going to guess lane. Yeah, we're going to say lane. Yeah, looks like lane. Hello, lane. If you were here before, I apologize. I have forgotten. It happened a lot. LAN. Like, the pronunciation of local area networks acronym, right? LAN. Or is it Ian? Is that a capital I? The font is tiny and indeterminate for me. I'll have to try to change that. Animation frames. What else do we need? We do want to keep this. Yeah, it was interesting to find out that they do expose the low level of it. I kind of appreciate that. We're making our game LAN. So we're testing a lot of things at once here. But we're going to make a Vampire Survivors style game. Right now, what this is showing is collision, avoidance navigation, arbitrary drawing both of the sprite's animation as well as color shifting the sprite. And then avoidance motion, if I didn't mention it. Hey there, Huge. Yeah, we were testing color modulation on them to see if that would impact performance. It apparently does not. Hey there, Naruto. Okay, let's do... We don't need to be that fast. But 192... Spawn rate of 1. They don't avoid anything, but they collide with enemies. I thought I had them set up. They don't move in. Oh, wrong. There we go. So we still see some hitches on the inside there. The mice seem to be popping incorrectly. So there is something further going on there. Well, here, we can turn that off since we don't need to be doing it anymore. This was just for giggles. There we go. Yeah, with the mice, we are getting some of the interior ones destroyed when the exterior ones hit stuff. I thought we had that resolved. But clearly we don't yet. Let's slow the blobs way down. We'll move the mice a little faster than that so that we can see them. This flickering in the center is something that I want to resolve as well. Yeah, some of them vanished right here. They're not supposed to do that. So one of the difficulties with this system is identifying the entity. Hey there, Ahmed. Let me show you. Motion, position, safety. So we want to move some of this collision logic in, but in the thing that manages the area, we are going to get shape entry here. So right now it just removes them. But the problem there is we're getting... This is the shape we impacted. We may ultimately need to move to an index-based pattern. Well, I'm sorry, a thing itself-based pattern. Because what I think is happening is that the wrong entities are being removed because it's happening too quickly. The reason that can happen is our list of entities and our list of shapes happens to coincide. Because once you add a shape to an area, it is in an ordered array. Seems to be first in, first out. So, you know, whatever order they go in, that's their index. But it doesn't keep like an identifier for them. Instead, that index, that is just the first one in the collection, you know? Hey there, Pause. And desert creatures are a real pain in Terraria, Drew. And huge, they can collide with anything. Anything I want them to, essentially. So we changed this to be, we only remove the things, I think frame by frame. No, we remove them physics frame by physics frame. Those are two of my cats there, Pause. The upper one is Mason and the lower one is Sherbet. A good opportunity for a cat check. Sip a beverage here. We can see 4 of them. Ember is looking out the window. I think Sky might be right down below her. Yep, Sky, we can see all 5. So looking out the window is Ember up above, and you can just see Sky's head at the bottom of the window next to the curtain. And then Sammy, the little tuxedo, is over on the shelf. Sky is leaving the frame of the tree, passing over the bed. I mean, yep, he's entering the play area. I generally use the cam on the bed there with the because there's usually 2 there. There's very frequently 2 there. Hey there, Blue. Okay. So I think we're getting multiple... I think the indices might be getting thrown off. We're telling each thing they need to be removed. I don't really have a favorite cat paws. That's part of the reason that I've stopped at 5 for now, is it can be difficult to pay enough attention to them if there's too many more. Ember and Sammy in particular are very attention hungry. Mason less so, but when he wants attention, he's really insistent about it. And Sky about similar, but Sky gets destructive if he doesn't get the attention that he wants. Sky is the oldest one. He is the longer-haired, big, fluffy one. He's also the largest of them. Then Ember, then Sammy, then Mason and Sherbet are right about the same age. Okay, let me add something to the collection. We don't want to try to remove it twice. If not, things to delete as it contains. Don't really want to do this, but that is not a great thing because it asserts that we'd be searching the array every time. I do like cats. So what we've added is logic to only remove entities on a physics step, and we make sure that we aren't... No, they're not colliding at all. All right, let me make sure that's working as expected there. Okay. That's why it's not a Boolean. Equal to 0. Middle in age is Sammy. Okay, what we want to pay attention to is the center mass of mice. Nothing should be getting pulled from the center mass. But things should be colliding, which is a problem. The youngest is kind of a tie for Mason and Sherbet. All right, well, we can make the mice move faster for that. Go! Okay, we are never hitting this. Oh. If it's not in the collection, if it's not in the collection, add to it, as opposed to if I found it, add it. I'm sorry. If I, yeah, if I can't find it, add it. Amazing. Hey there, Cookie. Oh, thank you, Pause. Thank you. Okay, we're trying to watch the... Okay, no, we're still getting that. So there are some collisions that are hitting the wrong entities. Like, we're getting things popping from here. Should not happen. We need to correct this before we move forward, because this is critical infrastructure. Okay, so that didn't change anything, which isn't terrible. Area get all right, all right. It's equal to thing dot shape RID. Then we're gonna... This is clumsy, but we're gonna do it. Thing. Hey there, Daily. Okay, why are they not colliding anymore? We're telling it, find the shape. So we have a local shape RID now. And then... Moose, that is Mason and Sherbet, top to bottom there. And hello, Kane. Okay, so now we're going to look at the things collection. Why is there only one thing in the things collection? Looking for 308. I am making a game pause. We're going to turn off the mouse spawner here. And we're going to make the blobs move faster so that we get collisions. A4-5. Oh, these are object IDs, sadly. Okay, I've called these RIDs. Not an ID. Still no. So the thing that I'm working on right now is I'm trying to make the collision logic safer. Okay, let's... Okay, that's working again. Slow the blobs down. Have the mice move at twice the speed, so we get a lot of them there. Set the spawn limit for the mice to 1,000, so they'll actually go. Same thing, still happening. There are mice in the center that are getting wiped out at the same time as the others here. Well, I appreciate the subscriptions, folks. I really do. Weird. Right, so the issue we're having is that some of the entities that are colliding seem to result in additional entities in their group going away. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a count here. As an integer is equal to 0. Spawned, collision count. Okay, we're still doing 1-to-1. Okay, local things. Shape ID 13091. Okay, it's the right thing. How can we clean this up? Hate to do a break, but can we do still internal collisions? So this hasn't changed anything. There is still a fundamental issue. It's not that we're deleting the wrong things. So we call remove on the thing. That removes the shape. We erase the thing from the collision, or the collection. We're not iterating over the array. We're iterating over a different array. We're going to temporarily do this. This is terrible. We don't need to do that this often. But we're going to re-index them every physics frame. Didn't matter. Okay. We do need to re-index them, though. Otherwise, that'll start leading to problems. Physics server 2d.area. We're still working on the same game. Area remove shape. How long have I been making it? We're on day 37 now. And we generally code for 3-ish hours a day on it. Well, a stream. So being fully generous, 117 hours. We remove it. We update the indices. I think it's important that we do this. Because this will force the shape indexes to move. If I had to guess, we're getting extra collisions. Like maybe we're getting more than one area entered on a given body. So we're saying, okay, throw this one out. Let's... The local shape index is 0. The local thing's ID is 0. Let's... It's not equal local shape index. Okay, we know there's not too many collisions. Hey there, Abraham. Welcome. Okay, local thing dot shape RID is not equal local shape RID. Oh yes, oh yes. Okay, we're We're never getting a disjoint there. Because I can't tell them to delete by index. I'm looking for places that I can, that I can validate that I've got the right shape. It's also possible that the RID is being freed. It's the shapes removal part of the problem. We're going to take a quick break. Be right back, folks. And we're back. All right. Hey there, Copper, and I think William showed up as I was stepping away. All right. So how do we do this right? Is there the equivalent of a queue free on these things? If we remove its shape, it won't collide anymore. I appreciate it, Copper. So this saved us some pain because we aren't trying to clear it during collisions. But let's try. Same issues. It's like we're getting extra deletes happening. Let's say we're removing the things during the physics process. How about process? This is very much not ideal, but we're kind of poking around to see if that's extra weird. are we immediately getting? 233. Wait. Did I mess something up here? Huh. I think I get why it was breaking. Yeah. Okay. All right. So what was happening is I had actually set the mice to collide with the player. And they spawn on the player, so there usually isn't an area entered, but it can be based on the circumstance. So that's why we were getting the interior collisions, not because of anything else. Not because of anything else. Okay. Double check. There was a settings problem. Technically, there's another thing that I should attach here. So then we go into test render, and we are going to add area shape exited. So this is a double check. Is if you enter a shape or exit a shape, a collision must have happened. Yep. Okay, so this is the basic structure. There's a lot of scrub that I need to clean up here. At least there's a lot of scrubbing that I must do. So the mob body, I almost think we need to completely redo our structure. There is a overall loop, Copper. There is kind of the world heartbeat kind of loop. And then some of the things are iterating. Like at the very beginning, there's a bit of a hitch where I'm spawning a whole bunch of stuff at once sometimes. So movement is a big thing that we want to preserve here. We won't need to do it as a tree. In fact, we want to actively avoid using it as a tree. We want it to be a series of objects. I think we're going to have to test with a resource here. And we're going to call it a script. Extends a resource. Test resource. Okay, we don't actually need a thing itself. But we still need each resource to have a way to define which kind of object we might be dealing with. Source node or enum. Because things like which texture to use, which animations, those kind of things would be useful. But movement is something that we don't want to have to rely on nodes for. You keep repeating that, pause. We can't necessarily export it, but are there another thing I can do for... wonder. It's not a file that we want. Let's check something real quick here. Might not be able to do that the way I want it to be done. Ah. Ah. No, pause. It's unclear if they're even actually siblings. I believe there were a couple of litters that definitely had some, like, shared parentage. But they are about the same age and they were raised together, so. Oh. How will we set this up? Because I want to be able to predefine types of movement without necessarily having to code them. But that might ultimately be what we have to do. They're both domestic short hairs there, pause. Very different, basic physical characteristics as far as, like, you know, fur texture, like their whole, like, body frame kind of thing. General facial structure, very different, but um, both domestic short hairs. So what I'm staring at this nearly blank file for is the we had been using a resource model and we were using packed scenes to represent the resources that we wanted to load. I think we might still be able to do that. It'll end up being very roundabout. Pause. Mason, Sherbet, and Sky are male. Sammy and Ember are female. All of them spayed, neutered, that kind of thing. We could still use test scenes and then have the actual objects be extracted from it. That feels really roundabout. So I had just been using a kind of socketed in kind of pattern. So one of the things that Godot will let you do is with exported objects, but if we do that, then we're just going to run into kind of a mess there. Where each movement container needs to be coded to contain its particular movement. Like, we'd have to iterate in any event. So, for example, to our movement logic in here, where did we keep it? Attacking behaviors. So before we actually have a node that represents the type of movement that it does. Right now we only have a working project name, pause, where the project name is Nyanite Survivors, but that doesn't mean that that'll actually be the title, much in the way that the Nintendo GameCube was Project Dolphin. So we could have a movement wrapper type scene, and then that scene would have a member variable that would be its actual movement class. Then in a template, we could supply... All right, Copper. Thanks for joining us. The movement could be popped loose and passed along. So the scene becomes a container for the particular movement entity. We could spit that back out. That would still require 2 layers of coding on the objects. So what we're trying to avoid here is we're trying to avoid putting any nodes into the process if we can avoid it. But I think we're still going to end up doing that with the resources. Tell me of resources. So we don't want them to be resources themselves. We want them to be an object. So we could have a resource that contains it. That will result in us having a class and then a resource that contains that specific class, so that something can then say, hey, resource, give me your movement object. Can we use like a second layer class name? Pretty sure we can't define it 2-layered like that. So every resource could then contain that object. So then I could have a resource type that would be it would be nested. So this extends resource, it's a test resource. If I go into, should be able to export test resource var test resource as a test resource. Okay. So if I have a movement container style template, then each movement container would be 2 lines. It'd be its resource. Doesn't even need to be it doesn't even need to have a class name. Okay, so I think that's the new pattern. So we're going to have a movement resource, and that movement resource, all it does is it is the vehicle for delivering a particular movement class. So that that class can be subsequently used. So, for example, so it's a test resource, and then var into transport is an object. It's equal to object new. So we would have a pattern like this. Perhaps having some like forced initialization here if it's really necessary. But for the most part, we'd probably use a constructor for that kind of thing. Then, when I load this test resource into something, if you're going to use it, what you do is say, hey, resource, give me thing to transport. That is the object reference I want. All right, Abraham, thanks for swinging through. Okay. We're now going to steadily start the process of ripping apart the old structure to put in the new structure. And I think what I'm going to do is store off the old structure so we can keep referencing it, but it's better if we actually go through and make new classes to represent them. Because as it stands, we're just going to keep running into problems if we don't do that. That is, we have all these spawners and whatnot that need to change their behavior if I want to use the new structure, but I don't want to lose some of the work that we did coming up with that pattern. I don't want to have to rethink it. Not really any of them are like really, like they'll cry at you. Sky will become a nuisance if he wants food or something. He does the same thing if he wants you to give him pets as well, is he'll come over and he'll start to like paw at you or pull on wires or reach up and grab a computer screen or something like that. And it's hard to determine sometimes if it is he wants attention or if he wants food. So I often check the food first. Well, I'll try to pet him, but if it keeps getting worse and worse, I always try to make sure to take a look at the food dishes. Okay, we'll leave the art folder as it is. Movement factory and movement modifier factory will need to be changed. Same with spawner and player. Player we can move into the new model. The double vowel would throw me off, but it looks like I'm just going to say Okamino, because I don't know how to do that double, like the double vowel there. I mean, read in English, it would be like ooh or But since the rest of it has the resemblance of Japanese, that would essentially be an OO. But I couldn't say. In any event, welcome. Welcome. Bubbles will need to be changed. Oh. We could make them enums, couldn't we? It'd still be like a dictionary. We would need to have an enum for each modifier that we created. And then we would have a dictionary that corresponded to them. But it's the dictionary that corresponds to them that would create the issue. And the same thing will happen if we pass what I want in as a resource in the same fashion, is we won't get an instance of it. If we pass it in as a resource, we get the same thing each time. It's only the packed scene mechanism that lets us dodge that. So I think we're back to the idea that there is a packed scene that is the vehicle for it. Doesn't need to be an object in and of itself, but the packed scene, more than the resource, is the thing that we want. What are we doing with start catalog? Where do we have that? Okay, we have our monster catalog object. We've created unique identifiers for each one. We're making a game, Okamino. Spawner template is another resource. It contain mob templates and movement templates, but the position modifiers are pack scenes. I think we're going to converge on that. Templates are movement modifier templates. Which is packed scene. It is tricky. It is tricky. If we instantiate a packed scene, we would have to release it as soon as we're done. And I'm not a big fan of that. Oh. It's going to be a Vampire Survivor style game. Now this is all placeholder stuff right now, but where we've just gotten today and what I am kind of banging my head up against as far as thinking out the pattern of is now we need to change it so that we can have things like turn to face and that kind of stuff set into their logic. So like, do I rotate the sprite? Do I make it pivot to face its movement? We can actually test that part here. Had this stored off. I'm going to use safe movement as what it's actually going to move by. We're defining a rectangle, but that doesn't let us flip it. Mesh. Did I do it with the transform? Or if we can set Z index and make it render accordingly. That's right, Okamino. I want, like, for example, the blobs should face left if they're moving left. Right now they're stuck in their right-hand side. Please what? Pause. Avoid spamming the same thing over and over if you could. If you have a question or anything like that, just go ahead and ask it. There's no need to wait for me to respond to a question for permission to ask a question or similar. Repeat. Where we get our texture. Okay, we actually load the texture. And the texture is a texture 2D, right? Yeah, okay. Hey there, not here. Right, it's Okamino, that's effectively what we're going to end up doing. The trick is doing it mechanically. Like, I need to, in the drawing code, I need to set it up so it will do that. Figuring out which way it should be facing is going to be very straightforward. I just need to look at the X portion of the vector and say, is it left or right? Like, and if it's left or right, flip a toggle to be like flip the sprite. but I'm looking up how to flip the sprite. Because we're doing a direct canvas draw with all of this stuff. The size of it, including an offset. Part of the screen and how big it is. We set its transform. Pop-ups can be don't want it to be looking at because that'll rotate it. So I don't think the transform can do it. Connections. Very much looks like a bunch of object level ones, yeah. Hey there, Conduct. Okay, so we can't set it at the texture level. Let's look up its library. I figure this is actually a really good opportunity to get more of this worked out because what we're heading into next is pretty brutal. Interesting. I wonder if I can automate this portion. Oh, okay. Thanks for swinging through. Ah, okay. It will only update so often if you set that. Line. No, no. extra rectangle. Don't want its X and Y swapped. Should set Y sort enabled on it, I think. We'll have to see. Anyway. Wonder if we can set that like as a callback. Probably have to look this up in a moment. Look at the kitties while I do that. There's a lot of references to the object level of a sprite, but I want to avoid those objects. I don't know that the sprites would actually be a difficulty, but I don't want to nest objects I don't need to. Hey there, Jordan. We're trying to do some coding. At that particular moment, I was trying to look something up, but it's for science. Okay, if the first scale is negative, okay. as boolean is equal to false. Well, we started coding this, and this has rapidly become what I do on this channel. Float is equal to 6. Float is equal to scale, just in case. This would be a constant when we really get around to it. We don't really need the flip. We have safe movement. X is 0, X scale equals to -1. And when we do this, we set X scale. Ultimate Beastmaster. The obstacle course things I really like when they actually have it be a clear competition. Sometimes it really feels like they seeded those, not Ninja Warrior style ones, but it does feel like some of the more comedic ones are seeded with people of varying capabilities, with the idea that particular ones are going to get further kind of stuff. There we go. Okay, so a negative scale will result in them looking left or right. Okay. So this creates a canvas item. Wonder. Rendering server. This item. I don't think this will actually work. We're still definitely seeing some flicker, but it's not quite as bad. All right, let's turn off the mice. And we're going to turn the blobs way up here. Okay, that's not doing what we want it to do as far as the overlap. We are definitely still getting some of the flicker. Actually, no. Now we're getting some left-right flicker. So we will need to adjust that. Like, we don't want them, like, spinning their heads in circles here. So what we're going to change that to is its target. Now, they should jitter a lot less when they get in close. Okay, so what I've changed is instead of facing based on their corrected motion, that is designed to make it so that they don't roll over top of each other, instead of relying on that, they rely on where they want to be moving. So if the player is to their left, they want to be moving left, so they face left. Kind of thing. At about 3,000 things, we can definitely get slowed down. And I suspect that the Y sorting does have an impact on for this item, though. Yeah. Hey there, James. Set this down to 2,500. Once they've all spawned, it looks kind of impressive when they start converging, you know? Okay, I think we've got that in place. It's not a spawner, it's not one of my scenes. Entities. So default entity is going to have a sprite. It's going to have its manner of motion, and it's going to have its group type, just like with the prior mob iterations. Welcome back, Pot. Or copper. Okay, so we have a default entity. If we go... It's texture as a texture 2D. Variable. Okay, and then we're going to create a new resource, but it is a testing resource. Needs a texture. So then if I go into my art assets and I say blob. Excellent. Okay, that'll help. Okay, so in entities, they have a texture, which is a texture 2D. This way I don't have to set up the path. I can use a template for this, for that part. So projectiles move differently than monsters. Monsters have two different types of movement. They have in a given direction and towards the player. Well, and not at all. 3 very specific movement types, but I think we can end up using the same pattern as projectiles, where if it has no movement logic, then it just sits still. If it's a monster, we'll pick one of 3 monster types of movement. They appear and they hold still, which will not be terribly, common. They target the player and then move it in a straight line towards them, but will not track the player. So once their direction is determined, it's fixed. And then track the player. So pretty much universally, it will be target the player and then do a thing. Okay, so they have an animation, essentially. But we'll compose all of this stuff here. It needs to know this data, though. Animation frame size, integer. We're going to try to be universal as far as the length of an animation. Hey there, Discord. Welcome. I missed a statement from Okamino there some bit ago, but if they're still there, or if anybody's interested, the kickoff point of this was both because I wanted to make a game, and I'm using this language that is native to the game engine because I wanted to fully learn how to use this engine. You can use external languages to interact with it, but there are efficiency differences between doing different things in different locations in the code and in different languages in the code. And I just wanted to stick to keep it as simple as possible as far as how I will learn it. Down the road, that might mean that I use more complex options like doing external libraries, as in write code in like C# or C++, that kind of thing, and reference it from inside of the engine. But for the time being, we're going to try to be as efficient as possible just within the GD script and see how far we can get with that. So have a var animation frame. Do animation frame. It's actually a vector 2. Set is a vector 2. Now, for the purposes of my sprites, this is usually 16 by 16 and -8 by -8, and that to center the sprite on the position that we're talking about, we actually render it up and left a little bit. This will usually be about of the listed vector size there, -half. And so far, all of our animations are going to be in rows of 6. We may make this into an enum, so that in code I can say idle running, that kind of thing, instead of setting the animation row to something else. Okay. There. For our target movement, a vector 2. Safe movement, say vector 2. Animation stuff. Canvas. Canvas. D. We're very specifically using a suffix of RID with these items because this is a very specific and important kind of thing that we're dealing with. So one of the tricky elements here is going to be making sure that we have the idea of a universal mob tracker so that we can do things like get rid of all of the monsters at once. But that we also have make sure that their physics and rendering handling are all being covered properly. Because with the model that we've got, there's an area for each kind of type. Player projectiles, monsters, that kind of thing. We could have it to be where every area is a known commodity and we only interact with it directly. So I'm only ever going to... Like, if we're addressing monsters, we have to address the monster area, period. We never have any question about what kind of thing we're dealing with. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so we're calling it current shape index because this is going to change regularly. Technically moving is physics, but that's different for this case. It can be. It can be, Ivan. But you learn by doing. Agent RID is of course. We could have speed in here. And hello, Ivan. Welcome. All of these will go into rendering a given slice of the animation. Function. Hello, Sherbet. Hello. Okay, so under this pattern, the entity is going to decide how to move itself. We're gonna take that logic out of the housing listing, or at least of the kind of rendering area. Rendering area is only a container for the shapes, so we should almost never be referencing that. Welcome back, Pause. Sherbet has jumped up behind my head here. So he is getting back scratches while I think out loud here. There we go. All right, let's go into our constants global Type, sprite size, sprite scale multiplier. Okay. I don't think I want to scale sprites up any further. 6 is, I think, a pretty solid constant. So I think we'll leave that as a constant. We'll need area shape. We should be able to port most of this over. Shape index. So then in drawing, I'm going to grab that logic from here, port this over. When do I hope I'm done? I have no idea. They're still early enough along that it is unclear. When we'll have that, you know? I think that's how we've got it. I don't want to have to duplicate rows, though. So we could set up within the entity to say which sprite sheet row corresponds to which actual animation row. We'll start with this. think. Yeah, 0, 1. Okay. We're doing this because it seems to expose it to the rest of the code when you do it this way. So an entity has an animation row, an animation frame. Say constants dot animation. Should work. So why is that not working? I'll reload the project just to be sure. I did pause. I don't know when it will be out. We have to get closer to finishing it first. There. Yes, I did. Exactly, James. It's I have no idea. We are still working on the lowest level of stuff in the code. Like, these lines right here are about drawing pictures on the screen. These lines right here are about moving those pictures. These lines are about having those pictures bump into each other. We have such a ways to go. For science, yeah, I think I just need to reload it as far as the constants are concerned. We are going to, just to be sure, so it doesn't immediately break next time I load it. Okay. Yeah, just need to reload it. I don't need to actually export it. That's good. It is very good. A to... It's got a default value. It'll be 0 or 1 to start with. You can change that to be something else. Sammy is currently on my lap. That is Ember on the zoomed in camera and Sky up in the cat tree. There's a decent chance Sammy is in here because Sherbet is on the pillow that she prefers to be on. She does like to come over for pets and whatnot. But she'll sometimes spend the entire stream on that pillow. So we figure out which animation row we are by consulting which animation and then using that as the index for animation row. I find Ember very cute. She is very cuddly. She speaks in trills. So unless she is playing, she doesn't do like a meow. Like if she's chasing one of her toys around, it almost sounds like she is distraught. But otherwise, she is very vocal, but it's all in different like volumes and lengths of trill. It is very cute. Sky can be a close second because he is almost universally in target acquisition eyes mode. If you ever see a cat with its pupils like super dilated, that's them looking for something to lock onto. And Sky is almost always like that. He is rarely slit-pupiled. I mean, I wouldn't say any of them are rude, but Sky can be the most destructive one. He is, if he's not thrilled with you, he will go in and he will do things like chirp to get your attention. And then if you make eye contact with him, he will throw something off the shelf and then chirp again after he hears it hit the floor. It very much has the vibe of, hey, look, and then look what you made me do. He actually seems to get very upset if it doesn't crash on the ground. Like if it softly bounces on the ground and doesn't make a noise, he doesn't like that. Okay, then in Constance we are going to have... Wouldn't be able to tell you, but Sky is actually close in that regard in some interpretations. He's the first one to kind of greet new cats in a friendly fashion. He very rarely gets confrontational, and he's usually the first to go over and like sniff at them, that kind of thing. Yeah, probably Ember. I mean, it depends on your definitions, but probably Ember. Is equal to 0. All of my cats are pretty chill. I mean, you can see based on the fact that stream time is nap time. Was it just entered it? Sprite frames per second. Actually gonna do, yeah. Don't want to do this calculation over and over. That's more of a personal question, Pause, so I won't answer that. In character, no, I have the other nanotypes in catbots. So float is equal to divided by sprite frames per second. Then in entity, we are going to have sprite frames time to next frame minus time to next frame, animation frame, int is equal to 6. Okay. I do not. Only cats. As might be visually apparent, I'm a cat person. Ha 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 ha. You have mentioned that. Pause. This is a live 2D model. I use VTube Studio on a phone and then Vitamins and VTube Studio to track the movement on the PC, and then I put that in OBS as a separate layer. Okay. Okay, we're going to do this in a sequence here. Is this a return or not? It's scaled. Translated will return scaled. Okay. All right, Don. I do like those colors too. This is the rest of the back area. You can see the you can see the core in the background. Okay, that'll handle the flip there. Transform that. It's a new one. Scale it. Translate it. The reason I did this on 3 separate lines is it's a real hassle to have to deal with there are lots of rooms in the Catbot factory, Paws. Transform should be a relatively simple type. Yeah, pretty simple type, so remaking it shouldn't really be a problem. I can't really say there's a big difference, Paws. They're all healthy eaters. So move is one of the tricky ones in this, in that it doesn't actually do the movement there. It does the movement later. In that there's a callback that happens. So yeah, I think we can do that. So if we go to test thing, we don't need to set up the movement there. What we're most interested in is here. Shape index. Hey there, Abhinav. Welcome. We're working on our game project. Position. We're making a Vampire Survivors style game. We're currently working on rendering and physics. We've spent the last few streams getting it to the point where this can happen. There are currently about 2,500 little bouncing things, including the little player standing in the middle. And this has next to no impact on frames per second. We can stay at about 60 in this state. All of the blobs collide with the player, but they also avoid colliding with each other. Like, they won't overlap each other any more than they have to. Which means there's a whole lot of extra calculations happening in the background there. This is good. This means that we have enough leeway, since I can have about 3,000 things on screen. So let's do 3,000 blobs. The way I had to, Abhinav, is instead of using the node structure, like the trees and nodes and whatnot that is default, I'm actually interacting with the physics, rendering, and navigation servers directly. Like, all of these little blobs are represented by shapes, canvas items, and navigation agents under the hood. But there is no node structure. So if I look at my remote tree, there's still nodes for a lot of this stuff, but right here, blob spawner, if you look, blob spawner has no children. And that's because they are all things underneath it. Now, in theory, there could be children under this since these are subscenes, but this means that I can deal with a lot of, like, oddities here. I wonder, actually, if I hide blob spawn. Yeah. Oh, but I think hiding it blew it up. It didn't like it when I changed that in the editor. I wouldn't say limitations. You actually have a lot more power. But unfortunately, it means you have to exercise that power accurately. For example, if I want to get rid of one of those blobs, I need to make sure that I haven't already done it, and then I clear the screen of it. I remove the animation. I release the canvas item. I remove the shape from the area. I get rid of the shape, and then I get rid of the navigation agent. Sorry, map remove. Okay, no, as long as I've removed the agent. So there's a lot of things you have to do manually for this. So for example, let's look here. I haven't ported all this over yet. If I want to make the blobs move like they do, how they don't run over each other, I don't move them in one go. What I end up doing is I say, well, how do I want them to move? Like, what vector do I want them to move on? I determine how long that vector is. I tell the navigation server, don't move it any further than that distance, the length of that vector. And then I tell it I want it to move on that target vector. Then it's going to call back later after the physics processing and say, this is how you can move that thing without it bumping into the things that you don't want it to bump into. I have to translate that from a vector 3, and then I move it into the corresponding position. Yeah, it's twofold, Abhinav. You have the ability to trim out things you don't care about, but additionally, it removes the overhead of the tree. There's a lot of like extra footwork going on that might be useful in some scenarios, but isn't useful to me at the moment. So I don't want it. Prior to this, it was 5 to 750 entities in existence that I could handle. And based on the size of the sprites, I need about 750 to ensure they can flood the whole screen. I've been coding, pause. You didn't miss much. So that would only include monsters, though. So if the game's frame rate tanks to 15 at 750, that's not nearly enough. At the moment, I only start to see frame rate issues with the rendering and the sort of movement that I'm doing at about 3,500 things, I think. Let's do a check here. So we should see the FPS kind of flicker while I'm looking at it on the meter. But with 3,000 things, all of them are trying to move. All of them are having their movement adjusted on the fly in relation to other entities around them. Assuming I'm not looking at the monitors, which costs us FPS, about 60. So then I can go into the blob spawner and say, okay, how about 3,500? So we just added another 500 or so. We're still holding at that, but as I'm moving around and causing some of the entities to be created or removed, there is some hitching there. In theory, that could actually be a different issue. Because if I'm running to the edge like that, you can see that there's a lot more being created. Oh, yeah. that's because there is a world edge that you can't see. Player, body, camera, 0.5. So you see the edge of the circle here. And this looks really cool. There's almost like a rippling effect going on in there. So, you can't really see it very clearly, but these red tiles, if I stand on the red tile in the center of a box, that's a screen. So let me get all the way to that red tile. Hey there, Tess. So you can see off to this side, that's the limit. They can't get any further away than that. So we'll start to see some of them going away over there. The more of that that's happening, the bigger the cost to the system, because I have to create and remove things. That's another bit of optimization I could do, is I could save those identifiers. I could remove the shape, but keep it. I could remove the agent, but keep it. And then reuse that agent elsewhere. So I'm not creating as many resources in the world to worry about, kind of thing. Now, the agent, I don't know if I'll actually be able to do that with, but shapes I can definitely do that with. I would get in touch with a dentist, Yamato. And Nyanite, thank you very much. Yes, my primary broadcast location is YouTube, Abhinav. Well, a quick Google has not helped me identify that. James, can you elaborate? Yeah, we're gonna need to see if. Okay, hypothetically, what happens if we don't remove? What happens if we don't remove them fully? So we're not going to free them. Okay, yeah. We need object caching. We need object caching. Starting at about 3,500 objects. Well, I expect it's the number of them being created and destroyed at once, which is the limitation. If we have some object caching, we can mitigate that. The agents, I think we have to remove, because these guys are acting like they're colliding with stuff, but they're not. Okay, so let's get rid of the agents. And we'll see. Okay, navigation agents, I think pretty inexpensive to get rid of. Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, I had been tempted, well, before this logic, I had actually been trying to implement a Boyd's-like thing. I thought that was an L. um, so instead, what we've got here is Godot has some built-in navigation logic for this kind of thing. I can control how close to each other they will get, how far they will move, that kind of thing. So while they don't have the full like flocking motion that you normally get out of a Boyd's display, like your schools of fish or birds, that kind of thing, they are trying to do that. Now, we can see some of the aberrations right here, where they're starting to like grow on top of each other. But yeah, this is, oh wow, yeah, they're they're having issues. Here, let's mess with that actually. So this is how far they'll check for each other. Let's double this out. Now we should see them spacing each other out a lot more as they come in here. Now, we do have a definite, like, clot effect that's going to happen because it spawns them 50 at a time. One of the added advantages of the way that the algorithm works is that that functions. In my prior collision attempts and trying to, albeit crudely, implement a Boyd-style individual navigation logic, we got a lot of like clumping, like they would appear right on top of each other. And I don't actually have to do anything about that under this model. I kind of don't mind that it's sort of a tidal wave of them over there. There's something to be said for a giant mass of them if you let too many keep spawned. Let alone that the player would have lost by now. So you can see with a wider collision area, they're a lot slower to get out of a mass like that. Because they spawn in such a big clot, it's harder for them to like jiggle into a position where they can safely move. If there's an entity right on top of them, they're sort of competing to disentangle. Like we've got a couple that are close to breaking free, but not quite. They're kind of stuck. So that's why I think like 32 is kind of a sweet spot at the moment. We can make it tighter than that with, say, like 16, which is about twice the size of the sprite that they try to keep off of each other. We will get a lot more like sprite overlap, but you know, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. There's something to be said for this mess, you know? I will need to have some logic for the parent canvas item to get the Y sorting done on that too. So that it should look like a top to bottom mass of blobs instead of them being kind of stacked haphazardly over each other. But yeah, we've spawned 5,000 things. With this tightness, though, we would want to have more. What's our limit now, huh? What's our limit? Stress testing. 4,000 blobs. Switch over to our visual monitor here. We'll be back in just a moment. We'll continue the testing for a little bit longer, and then we will pick up from there. We'll wrap up after that. But quick break. Okay, let's see. 4,000, but we do need to... 32, I think, is kind of a sweet spot here. All right, we can hold just fine. Here, let's run towards the edge. Let's get a whole bunch of them getting purged. Okay. 5,000. We are suffering at about 5,000 now. I don't know how much of that is... We are now creating so many things that it's causing problems in other places, but... Let's switch it down to one at a time. Okay, we are getting, like, physics aberrations now. Let's go into our test render. We are going to just say, every time there's a physics frame, if there aren't enough things already to fill the list, add one. So it's about 8 times a second. One of them can be added. And this is actually a very plausible number or rate of generation in a survivor style game. So If they got this many on screen, there's a good chance you've already lost. Okay, passing 1,000. So one of the things we're checking is to be sure that we're not... What would it be? We're not seeing most of the issues because we're spawning too many things in a small space. We are going to have more objects than we need in this scenario. And we're sitting at about... Don't want to move too much because they don't respawn that fast. He's standing still. We're still getting a pretty good rate. Well, let's redo this. We'll do less than 50. Okay, so most of the visual aberration is due to the number that are being spawned in the same spot. Okay, pause. But 5,000 things, I think, is already in, like, wild edge case territory anyway. The FPS stabilize again. Okay, so 3,000 was kind of our target zone. And I think we've achieved a good amount for that. Oh, it didn't like that. I think we've been messing with too many numbers here. Either that or we finally hit like some sort of you can only have this many canvas items kind of thing. Let's keep walking this way for a little bit here. Okay, so far, as we're walking, we have created 14,000 things. And we have a sufficient number of them being generated at the moment that you can't really see any point at which there aren't monsters, you know? Kind of The edges of the screen, yeah, but that's not really a concern. And we could always fiddle with that more. Have logic that essentially keeps track of where the player seems to be going and prep more of them in that direction kind of stuff. Because we don't really care about stuff spawning out of range behind. So the question is there a way we can see... Okay, so agents get cleaned up. That's good. Shapes we're not removing. We're removing them from consideration, though. The resource still exists. We're creating a... like, some memory gets munched when we do that. Yeah, I mean, we're holding pretty well. And if we drop that down to 2,000... Okay, 2,000 things. Yeah. If we put our baseline at 2,000 entities... so if we restart with just 1,000 blobs is our limit. And again, worst case, they don't need to ever fill the screen, but I want to have that option. It's 1,000. Get our debugger. Holding steady. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So next time, for real, we're going to continue moving the logic out of test thing here, and as many of these raw numbers as we can out of test thing here and into our constants and our new entity file, to our new script there, so that as much of this can be abstracted as possible. We'll start doing things like taking the texture and animation information and encapsulating that into a resource so that we can load that up at runtime and get all of this stuff that we need. Movement information is going to be trickier. I don't want to have to reinvent the wheel every time, but if I have to, I will hard code sets of movement for monsters. We can't do that for our weapons, though. That's one of our core goals in this game, is to have modular weaponry. Very reminiscent of things like Noida, Magicraft, Bioprototype, that kind of thing, where the weapon is created as a composite of behaviors and traits. We'll see how we do, but I want to actually dig into cleaning things up. Immediate goal... let me see if I set this for us here. Just gonna check around with some stuff here. Pushing buttons. Pushing buttons. Okay, our goal is to be on at the same time, starting the same time tomorrow. So 4 p.m. US Central. I do hope and plan to get going again with this so that we can try to pick up where we were planning on going early on. But this sidetrack, as it always does, I think helped us get some better performance. It's getting us into a better position heading into the next area. So yeah, I do hope everybody had fun today. If you haven't already and you liked what you saw, consider liking, following, subscribing, all of those good things. It will help the algorithm show you more stuff that you like. In the meantime, I hope you all have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.